Om
Stapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate, who came to establish universal religion. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic I am continuing from the last 2-3 Sunday discourses. The topic is on Karma Yoga. Everybody surely does karma. There is none who doesn't do karma at all. As long as we live in this body, we do karmas. The karmas, either they can bind us or the karmas can liberate us, depending upon with what attitude we do karmas. So it's very important. If we don't have proper attitude, we get confused and we get into more and more troubles and sufferings in life. So Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Indriyasya indriyasya arthe ragadveshau vyavasthitau tayor navashamagacche tauhyasya paripanthinau. We should not act upon impulses. Lord Krishna wants us to know how to sublimate our impulses. We must understand that raga and dvesha, likes and dislikes, are the two forces that are within us and not in the objects of the external world. What you should do is not to allow raga and dvesha to act through the senses. To a jnanavan, the real hurdles are raga and dvesha. He should not come under their sway. He must go beyond them. This raga and dvesha, likes and dislikes, they are the enemies he has to encounter on his jnana marga. Many people really want to evolve, but the pull of the senses and passions is so much that they fall below the standard they have set for themselves. After giving away to the passions or emotions, they begin to regret their actions. They feel paschatapa, regret, on second thought or introspection. When you feel such a paschatapa, you can derive some benefit and learn a lesson from it. Utpanna paschatapasya buddhir bhavati yadrashi tadrashi yadi chet purvam kasyana san mahodayaha. When that introspection comes, when you feel, oh God, why did I do that? I did a mistake. I ought not to have done it. You are actually having something like Sakshi Bhava because you are viewing your own actions as a witness. That is why you are able to stand apart, view your action and see whether it was right or wrong. Try to have this witnessing attitude throughout, without at the same time associating yourself with it. That part of Paschatapa, where you stand as a witness, must be prolonged, and you must practice to be a witness of your actions, even when you are actually acting. But that aspect of Paschatapa, where you feel sorry for your actions and regret and curse yourself, must be discontinued. You must cultivate Samabhava there too. You must tell yourself, all right, I, the body, mind and intellect, have acted in a foolish manner. This must be a lesson to me. But it is no use my feeling ashamed or sorry for it. I must transcend these feelings. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharma swanushtitaat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo vayavaha. You may be doing something which is without guna, according to you. But recognize that whatever you do, your actions will never be perfect. Everything, every action has merit as well as defect. You are eating food. It has guna as far as you are concerned because it nourishes you and you need to maintain and sustain your body. But at the same time, there may be a man somewhere who is dying of starvation at that very moment. Your eating the food contains this dosha, a sin, that while there is a man dying of hunger, who might still be saved if you give him your food, you are eating it yourself. So even eating food contains guna as well as dosha, merit as well as defect. Any action has a bad and a good element in it. So you can't do any action which is wholly good. That being so, you must go beyond both of them. Do whatever work falls to your lot without the least bit of selfishness and without attachment to the fruit of the action. That work will be perfect. Nay, it has to be perfect. Since you are having the perfection, it will express itself spontaneously in your actions. You will be doing maximum good to the world. There will be badness in the world always. It is impossible if you are thinking of perfecting yourself only after the world has become absolutely perfect. The world or the society is nothing but individual eyes, but put together. Unless the individual eyes are made perfect, the society cannot become perfect. To make the individual eyes perfect, you must start by making yourself perfect first. Then and then only can you make the other eyes and the society perfect. This is the reason why all the attempts by man to uplift the society or the nation by devising economic, social, political and other plans, they all fail. You have to lift up a society or a nation, not en masse, but by perfecting the individuals after first perfecting yourself. Improve right where you are and right now. You have relations with the outer world. When we come in contact with the objects of the external world, if we try to get joy from them, they must respond as we want them to respond. Otherwise we feel disappointed. They must have the capacity to respond. Even if they have this capacity, the circumstances must be suitable for them to respond, which is often not the case. Thus there is many a slip between the cup and the lip, And man faces disappointments and heartaches at every turn. Don't be conditioned by the world. Let it not affect you. Outlive it, even while living right in the midst of it. Don't be attached to anything in the world. Even when you are unattached, the things that are to come to you will come to you. And even if you are attached, anything that is to go away from you will certainly go away at the appointed time. It will not stay with you a second longer, in spite of your attachment. So, live in the world unattached and do the work that is yours as a karma yogi. Do not think you gain anything by leaving your work and running away from it. Even if the work has no merit according to you. Even if you die in the process of acting as a karma yogi, in those very circumstances where you are placed, that is better for you than leaving those circumstances and going away to another. Don't think your job or family stands in your way. Do not think, oh, my job is useless. Vedanta and my job cannot go together. So I will retire and then practice Vedanta. When you do retire and go to the village, you will get caught up in the village politics and in petty feelings, and you will then feel my job and the hustle and bustle of Bombay were much better environments to practice Vedanta. A cow which is grazing on one bank of a river or stream, you look at the other bank and think that the grass on the other bank is much greener, fresher and richer. When it goes to the other bank and looks back at the first bank, it finds the grass there looks much greener than the grass on the side where it is standing. It is just so with man also. He thinks he will be happier in another set of circumstances than where he is. As examples of people who have attained mukti by doing karma yoga as a first step, we have read the stories of Dharmavyada and Ansuya. The story of Dharmavyada comes in Mahabharata. He was a butcher. Not that he liked his profession and took it up, but because the profession descended from his grandfather to father, from whom it came down to him. So he took it up. Though he was not educated, he had Vedantic understanding and an ardent thirst to attain mukti. So, he transformed his very job of a butcher into karma yoga and gradually attained mukti. Anasuya also was uneducated, in the kitchen doing her household work as a karma yogi. She attained mukti. The karma yoga brought about chitta parishuddhi, which made her an adhikari for jnana. She did not leave her husband and children and run away to the jungles in order to have moksha. So, although your work is without guna in the social vision, it will be better for you to do it as a karma yogi than to leave it and take up some other job, even if that seems to have more guna according to you. Hearing all these things, Arjuna asks, Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. O Krishna, Vedanta is really so wonderful that people must know it. Even then, why do they engage in misdeeds and work in such a way that will bring about bondage? Compelled by what force, impelled by whom do individuals in the world commit sin? Sin is anything that will bring you misery, pain, dukkha, bondage. Even when a man does not want to do anything that will bring about dukkha and bondage to him, still on many occasions he acts in a way which is just the opposite of what he will like to do. What is the reason for it? Arjuna's question is a very intelligent one. We are all coming here eagerly with attention to hear Vedanta. And most of you are eager to improve yourself. You will have no desire to do papa, sin. But in spite of your wish and intention to do only that which is good for you, which will make you evolve, you may be falling far short of that ideal, which you have set for yourself. You do wrong things as though somebody or something is enjoying, compelling you to do these things forcefully. What is that force? You read the Bhagavad Gita, still you are not able to avoid anger, control your passions and the senses and sense organs. You are not rid of attachment, jealousy, greed and envy. You know these are bad, yet you are not able to avoid them. Why? Sri Krishna answers, Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapa vidhyanime vairinam. The force that impels you to do wrong is kama. Kama means desire. It is krodha. Kama itself becomes krodha. They are not different, not two, but one and the same. Kama, that is desire, when it is thwarted, when it finds an obstruction to its fulfillment, it becomes anger. To give an example, you give a piece of bone to a dog. It gnaws at it avariciously. Try to snatch it off, the dog becomes vicious. It bares its teeth to bite you. This is krodha, anger, which is an expression of kama when it is obstructed. Desire itself changes into anger. Anger is not born independently. Desire, and hence also anger, is born out of rajogun. Rajogun is the understanding. I am the body, mind and intellect. The world is real. To get joy, I have to work in the world, move among the objects of that world. In that understanding, we go on working, thinking that we will get so much of joy out of our actions. Rajoguna is the force that makes us extrovert and induces us too much of physical actions. Our desire is born out of our extrovert tendency. Desire is such an avaricious eater that the more and more you feed it, that means the more and more you satisfy your desires, it will ask for more and more. Desire is such that it will never be satisfied. However much you give way to it. Trying to satisfy yourself by accomplishing your desires is not the correct process, for you will never succeed in it. If one desire is satisfied, in its place 1,000 other desires sprout up. He who kills his desires alone is the king among men. He is even greater than a king, as the following story. There is an episode in the life of Akbar. Akbar was ruling in Agra. There was a Muslim fakir in a nearby forest. Some of the Muslim fakirs are Sufi mystics. They were great gyanis. One day, the fakir was in the mosque offering his prayers. Next to him sat Akbar, the king. Akbar was praying, "O Allah, I have so many kingdoms, but I have not yet annexed Bengal. Give me soldiers, give me courage, give me strength, give me power and valor to conquer Bengal." Though he has got so many things, still he wants more. After Bengal, I want to conquer Orissa. So he was going on murmuring this, and the Sufi heard it. And when the Sufi saint heard it, he became disgusted. What sort of prayer he is doing? Next day, Akbar, who had heard about this great Sufi saint, He went to the forest to see him. He talked to the saint for a good while. Then he said, "Well, I have learnt so much from talking with you, and I am greatly impressed by your wisdom. I beg you to accept these offerings of mine, and I request you to come to my palace. I will give you every possible comfort that you can think of." But the Sufi saint refused either to take the riches offered by Akbar or to go to the palace to live there. Akbar pleaded with him, but the saint was adamant in his refusal. Then Akbar asked him why he was refusing to comply with his wishes. The saint answered, "I do not want anything from a beggar." Akbar was enraged at this reply and shouted, "You call me the great emperor of Hindustan a beggar?" The saint calmly said, "Yes, because last night I heard you in the mosque begging this and that of Allah. On the other hand, I am perfectly satisfied and contented. How can I, who need nothing to make me happy, take anything from a beggar who has not enough to make himself happy?" So this opened the eyes of Akbar, who realized what an abject slave of desire he was. So like Akbar, we are also making our religion an institution for private begging from God. At least the ordinary beggars are honest and beg openly. We are dignified beggars. In order to make God respond, we flatter him, offer him this and that, give him fruits and to fulfill our desires, without knowing that the greatest puja we can do to God is to live a perfect life, ethically and morally, according to Sanatana Dharma. The enemy that stands between you and perfection is Kama, which expresses through the body, mind and intellect. With this desire present in us, whatever we do will not be perfectly done. So religion requires controlling this desire. As long as these desires control us, we have no religion. What we have will at best be only a pretense of religion. Therefore, control your desires. Lord Krishna says in the 2nd chapter of the Gita, "Indriyanam hitaratam enmanonu vidiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayurnavi bhavambhasi." The mind which goes after the wandering senses carries away the person's discrimination as the wind carries away a boat on the water. So, O man of strength, O Arjun, that one alone will attain the Sthita Prajna state, in whom the Indriyas are controlled and who can resist the mad onrush of the senses towards the sense objects. The control should not be because one is unable to enjoy the sense objects. For example, a diabetic patient has some control. He will avoid sweet things. But that sort of control is useless. One should control the Indriyas when they are running away to external objects. In order to control our desires, we should know where it is seated and how it acts and pulls us down. Lord Krishna explains this in the sloka, "Dhumena vriyate vanyah yatha dashto balena cha yatholbena vrto garbhastata tene tamavrutam." Conquering desire is a bit difficult. The whole of the 3rd chapter in the Gita from here is devoted to giving the method of conquering Kama. Lord Krishna gives the solution. The soul within has 3 qualities. First, it is intelligent, not inert. It is a conscious principle. Secondly, it is pure, untainted, unpolluted. Only something that is subject to change can be tainted, can get spoiled. but pure consciousness is not subject to change or decay. Thirdly, the soul is self-illuminating as well as capable of illuminating other things. The body, mind and intellect can function only when illumined by the conscious principle within, the soul. It is the intelligent principle within which radiates upon the body, mind and intellect as life energy. If the intellect is expressing itself, it is only a projection of the infinite principle. If the mind is acting, the conscious principle of the mind is an emanation from that. If the senses have the capacity to express themselves and to perceive, the conscious principle in the senses is nothing but an emanation from that infinite principle. Kama, or desire seated in the body, mind and intellect, covers up this conscious, pure and illumining soul within. Kama is seated in the intellect as intellectual desires, such as I must write such a wonderful book that it will eclipse all other books. I must deliver such a wonderful speech that people should marvel at me. Thus, seated in the intellect as intellectual desires and ambitions, it covers up the soul, which is self-illuminating and capable of illuminating others like smoke covering the fire. The fire also is self-illuminating and illuminating the other things. This is the subtlest form by which Kama covers up the soul. It also dilutes the intellect and makes it turn towards the world and not towards the soul. Kama is seated in the mind as mental desires, such as I must see that my son receives very good education and my daughter is married to a very rich boy. Thus seated in the mind as desire for pleasure, enjoyment of worldly life. It covers up the pure, taintless, unpolluted soul as dirt covers up a pure, bright and untainted mirror. The dirt has come and settled superficially on the bright face of the mirror, but it looks as though the dirt is attached to the mirror. It can be removed quite easily if you exert yourself a bit and wipe the mirror with a clean piece of cloth. So also, the soul is something that cannot be tainted, but the force of our mental emotions and desires covers it in such a way that we cannot see it through that gloom. The grossest and the outermost expression of Kama is in the Indriyas. Here, Kama covers up the conscious, sentient, all-knowing principle within us by expressing itself as bodily desires and passions and the craving of the five senses. Thus, sitting in the Indriyas, it makes us desire, covet and pine for sensual pleasures. Man wants to enjoy good food, use fragrant soaps, indulge in various pleasures. The Indriyas, when they start going out to the external world, drag the mind along with the intellect. Kama by itself has no force. It is inert. Yet, as placenta, an inert substance, Jada Padartha, covers the sentient and conscious child in the womb. So also, Kama, the inert substance, is covering up the sentient and the intelligent being, the real inner personality, the soul. These three qualities are given to show that Kama, that is desire, the one enemy of sadhakas, clouds and eclipses the three natural qualities of the soul. What are the natural qualities of the soul? Chaitanya Subhava. First quality is Chaitanya Subhava, the nature of pure consciousness. Second one is Swayam Prakasha Swabhava, its capacity to reveal itself. And third is Anyat Prakasha Swabhava, its capacity to eliminate other things. That is the whole universe, including our body and mind and intellect. Thus, kama seated in the body, mind and intellect covers up the soul in three ways. In a subtle way, in the intellect; in a less subtle way, in the mind; and in a gross way, in the senses. If we are to reach and see, not literally but allegorically, the pure, untainted, all-knowing, all-illumining soul, we have to drive away kama from these seats. All our actions must be directed to this removal, thus rooting out kama from the body, mind and intellect. That alone is true religion. Knowing thus the seat of kama, we must now learn the easiest and the most effective way of rooting out kama from its hideouts. Lord Krishna describes the strength and the cunning nature of the enemy, kama. He says, Avratam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalenacha. A jnanavan, that is a Vedantin, who has yet to put into practice his theoretical knowledge. There is a man who knows Vedanta but does not practice it, has a deadly enemy, Nityavairi, in kama. This enemy is so cunning that it can change its colors like a chameleon. It is a Mayavan, magician. It can express itself in any way. One can never satisfy this enemy. The more and more you give way to it, the more and more does it demand of you. If you think you can pacify it, you will never succeed. It is so greedy that it will go on asking for more and more. It is like a forest fire. It will go on consuming the forest and will never abate. The more it consumes, the more intense will its thirst become. Just think how true it is. Has anyone ever succeeded in completely satisfying one's desires? Do our desires not take different shapes or colors with the passing of each second? We may like a person today and hate him tomorrow. What we want today is different from what we wanted yesterday. When we are in the grip of a desire, we lose our discrimination and think that whatever we do is the right thing. Lord Krishna says in the second chapter, the nature of the enemy, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammoha Sprati Vibhramaha Sprati Bramshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. Lord Krishna very beautifully describes this in this verse. Thinking of an object, what will happen? Attachment for it arises. From attachment, desire is born. From desire arises anger. From anger comes delusion. From delusion, loss of memory of one's true nature. From loss of memory, the destruction of discrimination. From destruction of discrimination, what will happen? He finally perishes. So he ruins himself. When buddhi is gone, he is completely lost. Now there is a very famous illustration to highlight this point in Ramayana. You know, when Rama was in exile in the forest, they were living in a hermitage. One day, Janaki saw a very beautiful golden deer running around the hermitage. As soon as she saw, she was so much fascinated. The desire arose. I must have it. She began to love that golden deer. In order to increase her desire more and more, the deer happened to come frequently, move about the hermitage. And her desire became intensified. So she begged Rama to get it for her. Sri Ramchandra tried to convince her, look, is there any deer which is golden? It is all illusory. It must be some evil force, some demon in the garb of a deer. So, don't ask for such thing. But Sita's eyes saw the deer. Her mind was then dragged. Then the intellect also went after it. Without caring to think about the reality of the deer, Sita started to argue with Rama. Oh Rama, you know I am lonely here. If I had been in Ayodhya, I would not have asked of it. I have nobody here to play with. You must therefore get the deer for me. So finally Rama had to accede. He went after the deer, and realizing that it was a demon only, he killed it with an arrow. But the Rakshasa was a very cunning person. Before he died, he cried, O Sita, O Lakshmana. He imitated the voice of Rama. When Janaki heard it, she thought Rama was in great danger. So she immediately asked Lakshmana to go to the help of Rama. Then Lakshmana told her in a very low voice, O Janaki, how can you ever think that Rama would be in danger? He could never be vanquished. And moreover, it is not Rama's voice. Why do you think Rama is crying like this? So please, don't ever think that Rama would be in danger. But Sita was not to believe what Lakshman said. That means her desire was not fulfilled. She got angry. When Kama is obstructed, Krodha arises. She said to Lakshman, then she began to tease him. I now know your true nature. You want Rama to die so that you can have me. I will not allow you to touch me. Sita knew fully well that what she said about Lakshman was not correct. But blinded by anger, she thought that what she was saying was right. But then, finally, you know the story, how it went on. Lakshmana went to bring Rama. In the meanwhile, Ravanasura, a great demon, came there in the guise of a mendicant and abducted Janaki. Then the story goes. All this is because she wanted a golden deer. If Rama had not gone, she would not have been abducted by Ravana. Anyway, the drama continued this way. All the drama which we are facing in life is because of desire. Because of desire. It is desire only that forces us to do certain things and reap the result of them. Many times we do bad things, but afterwards we forget it. We forget all those bad deeds. But the effect cannot be forgotten. It has got its own effect. It affects you. Not immediately maybe. Maybe after some time you will have its reactions in your body. It shows up in the form of a tumor. It shows up in the form of a disease. It shows up in some form of misery, some deaths. In various ways. Infinite ways. So whatever the actions are done, they bear their fruits. They won't ask our permission. They act upon independently. There's invisible force, invisible law which operates. That's why the doctrine of karma of Hinduism is accepted by all people in the world today. Cause and effect, cause and effect. Just as we individuals are under the jurisdiction of cause and effect, even the countries are under the jurisdiction of cause and effect. Nations, everybody, they are under the grip of cause and effect. So, like fire, desire will go on consuming and ask for more and more. Alanna asti iti analaha. Something that never gets satisfied. You think what you do is correct. To give another example, suppose you expect a promotion in the office. If somebody finds out your mistakes at this time, you become really mad and think that that person is your greatest enemy. You are deluded in the belief that all you do is perfect. When karma is there, whatever you do, you will not get shanti. You will not get peace of mind. This evil force you have to conquer. There is no way. If you are really aspiring for peace, you must get rid of this karma. This is what Vedanta says. Indriyani mano buddhi asya adhisthana muchyate. Etair vimohayatyesha jnanam avritya dehinam. Ramakrishna says in the 3rd chapter, karma has 3 dwelling places. It dwells in 3 places. 1, the indriyas, sense organs. 2nd, mind. And 3rd, intellect. Seated in these 3 places and enveloping jnana, it is deluding the individual. In old age, you are clinging to delicious food and so many pleasures may go away. Although the desire to enjoy life through the senses may go away, the subtle desires in the mind and intellect still remain. You may not enjoy much physically, but you want to enjoy the emotion of your attachment to your children. This emotion you have developed because of your affection and attachment to the children and the desire that they should develop in the way you want them to. Don't give way to such desires. Put an end to them. Tasmat tvamindriyanyadau niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahi henam jnana vijnana nashanam. Verse number 41, chapter 3. Lord Krishna says, the first step therefore is to control your sense organs and their onrush towards the external objects. If you are an ethical man with sufficient control over your sense organs, you have ample scope to attain moksha. In this case, jnana means the intellectual understanding that there is but one reality, and that reality is Satchidananda Swarupa, and identifying with that alone will put an end to the cycle of births and deaths. Vijnana means actualizing or realizing or becoming one with Satchidananda, Brahman. But this karma, the most dangerous enemy, desire, it destroys both jnana and vijnana. Jnana vijnana nashanam. Desire is such a dreadful enemy, but still we are all the time entertaining the desire. Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhehe paratastu saha. The senses are very strong. The mind being more subtle, flexible and adjustable is stronger than the senses. Higher than the mind is the buddhi. The mind collects the impression from the senses. It then arranges, rearranges and coordinates the sense perceptions and presents them as ideas. It is the buddhi which discriminates, analyzes and decides that this is right or that is wrong and what ought to be done about it. It is a determining, discriminating faculty in us, that is buddhi. But there is still higher than this. Higher even than the buddhi is the pure consciousness, Atman. When the buddhi associates itself with the mind and the mind in turn associates with the senses, such a man goes down the bottomless abyss of self-degradation. Instead, let the buddhi associate itself with the Atman. Let it take refuge in the ultimate reality. Let it analyze the world. Let it analyze the reality properly. Shift them and understand what is the truth. Shifting them. Let it find out the kernel of the scriptures, the gist of the scriptures, the reality, and the best way to realize it and attain jnana, peace and ananda. Buddhi, thus associated and engaged, will be strengthened and reinforced. With this strength, it can conquer the mind, which in turn can conquer the senses. That is the real religion. Many people are interested in Vedanta and want to tread that path. But the greatest stumbling block for most of them is the pull of the senses, the pull of the flesh. Win over it and you will become a much stronger, much more powerful personality, even as far as the worldly life is concerned, let alone the spiritual life. If not, you will be just animals in the garb of human beings. Manushya rupena mrigascharanti. Acharya Shankara says, Yehi vrittim jahatyenam brahmakyam pavanim param vrthaivate tu jivanti pashubhischa samaha naraha. Those deluded people who regard and discard this great purifying, those deluded people who disregard and discard this great purifying and uplifting mode of mental life, that is Brahmi Vritti, live an utterly useless life. Their lot is the same as of animals. Man is endowed with buddhi, the discriminative capacity, having intellect, knowing what is right and what is wrong. If man does not act rightly, can he be called a man? Those who, in spite of Vedanta being presented to them logically and rationally, cannot conceive of the ultimate reality and make no effort to understand it, and those who, even though they understand it as the only thing that is capable of protecting them from drowning in the samsara and leading them to the infinite peace, do not practice it, are no better than animals. Animals have not intelligence enough to seek the ultimate reality. But if man having intelligence does not seek to realize it, he is worse than an animal. He is worse than an animal. Evam buddhehe param buddhva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahishatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. The last verse of the Karma Yoga, Lord Krishna says, he concludes the discussion on karma. He says, Arjun, use your buddhi to know that reality which is beyond buddhi. Thus reinforced, your buddhi can control the mind and the senses. Thus alone can you destroy the otherwise unconquerable enemy, desire. Here, Atma refers to the psycho-physical entity, body, mind, and Atmana means by the intellect. In concluding the chapter on Karma Yoga, I would like to quote a beautiful sloka by Ramana Maharshi, a great saint. He has said, Ahamapetakam nijavibhanakam mahadidam tapo ramane vadiyam. Separate from your true self the ego, body and mind. Separate yourself from the lower aspects of the self and try to remain in the real self. Try to know your true self through such vichara and also karma yoga. These are not words of mere speculation, but they are born out of my own experience, says Ramana Maharshi. It is the greatest tapas anybody can take to. Realize, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am the all-pervading reality, I am the inner perceiver who is never affected by the onslaught of sukha and dukkha. Thus, shift your values from the lower personality of ego, mind and body to the higher personality, the Atman. This is the greatest, subtlest possible tapas according to Ramana Maharshi. This is the royal highway to supreme abode of Brahman. Arise, awake and know the infinite soul through conscious effort. So, to summarize this path of Karma Yoga, Lord Krishna said, there are two methods or paths of spiritual practice. One is the path of spiritual knowledge, Jnana Yoga, for the intellectuals. Second one, the path of unselfish work, Karma Yoga or service, for the average person. Those who control their six senses by their intellect and engage themselves in unselfish work or service are considered superior. Human beings incur the reaction of works called the karmic bondage if the work is done with selfish motives. Therefore, Arjun, do your duty to the best of your abilities as a service to God and the society without the desire or greed for enjoying the fruits of your labor. The one who does not help to keep the wheel of creation in motion by selfless service and who rejoices temporary sensual pleasures, that person incurs sin and lives in vain. O Arjun, acting in your own selfish interest is sinful. Therefore, always perform your duty to the best of your abilities and without any personal motive or attachment to the results. One can attain the supreme by selfless service because it awakens the dormant spiritual Kundalini power within us. King Janak and others attained self-realization by Karma Yoga alone. You should also perform your duty with a view to help the society and set an example for others. The universal welfare or working for a noble cause as a hobby is a true service to God. The wise one should not disturb the mind of the ignorant persons who work with selfish motives to enjoy the fruits of work. The wise should inspire them by setting example of working for the benefit of the whole society and not just for one's own family. All works are being really done by the power and energy of God in accordance with His laws. But due to ignorance of spiritual knowledge, we think we are the doer. We are just an instrument in the hands of divine power. Do your duty and dedicate all works to God with a spiritual frame of mind and become free from desire, ego and mental grief. Likes and dislikes for material objects and sensual pleasures remain in your senses. Let no one come under the grip of likes and dislikes, because they are two major stumbling blocks on the path of God. They are stumbling blocks on the path of God realization. Likes and dislikes are destroyed when one discovers the worthlessness of material pleasures and develops detachment for it after the onset of self-knowledge. Inferior natural work is better than superior unnatural work. Depth in carrying out one's duty is useful. One evolves by the work best suited to one's own nature or inborn tendencies. Walking uphill occasionally due to fear or parental pressure is very stressful or destructive. By following a very easy career path, one may not be able to support a family. Therefore, cut down luxuries, lead a simple life, and develop a hobby of service to balance both the spiritual and the material needs of life. A balanced life is a happy life. Supreme Lord said, the unsatisfied desire produces anger. The satisfied desire breeds greed for more. Thus, desire is a great devil, because it can never be fully satisfied. As a fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror by dust, and as an embryo by the womb, similarly, the self-knowledge gets covered by the veil of lust. The lust for material and sensual enjoyment is called kama or vasana. Senses, the mind, and the intellect are the seat of desires. The desire deludes a person by veiling the self-knowledge. Therefore, one must purify the intellect by service and establish control over the mind and senses. Atman is superior to both mind and intellect. One must not soil one's Atman by sinful temporary pleasures of the senses. One should first strengthen and purify the intellect by service, spiritual practices and meditation, then control the mind and senses by the purified intellect, and establish control over lust or desire, the mighty devil of material and sensual pleasures. Chapter 3 defines what is Karma Yoga, describes the necessity and importance of Karma Yoga in spiritual journey, tells that people should teach others by their personal example. All works are really done by the nature of God, by the nature or God, using us as His instruments. Selfish desire is the greatest enemy for the seekers of truth, and teaches how to control insatiable desires with the help of trained and purified intellect. So let us try to engage ourselves in karma, following all these ideals given by Lord Krishna. Then the karma, instead of binding us, it liberates us from bondage. That is the summary of the Karma Yoga given by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavai Tejasvinavadidamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. May the Lord protect us, may He nourish us, may our knowledge be fruitful and enlightened, may we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.